Welcome to another deep dive with Books and Bytes. Today we're really getting into it with Fyodor Dostoevsky's The Brothers Karamazov. You know this book. I mean, it's a masterpiece. It just gets called that constantly for a reason. Regarding faith, doubt, morality, all the big stuff. What makes us human, It can be pretty complex, but I'm telling you, it's so worth it.
Oh, you're so right. The Brothers Karamazov is more than just a story. It's like Dostoevsky is really trying to get us to look at the human condition. He gives us these huge characters, the Karamazov brothers, and through them, he just digs into all these philosophical and psychological questions.
Yeah, let's get this family introduced. So right at the center of it all, we've got Fyodor Pavlovich Karamazov, the dad. And he is a mess, let me tell you. Like, zero paternal instincts, totally driven by these base desires. I mean, his actions, or I guess you could say inactions, really set the stage for everything that goes wrong with his sons.
Fyodor Pavlovich, he's like this symbol of spiritual and moral emptiness. He's Dostoevsky's way of showing us the dark side of humanity, like all that selfishness, greed, lust, And it really messes up his sons, each in a different way.
So we've got Dmitri, the oldest,
Right.
Passionate guy, impulsive, basically ruled by his desires. Then there's Ivan, the middle son. He's brilliant, but it's also really tormented by his own intelligence,
Yeah.
Try to figure out what it all means if there's no God. And then we have Alyosha, the youngest. He's devout, compassionate, finds comfort in his faith. And of course, he has this spiritual mentor, Father Zosima.
Can't forget Smerdyakovh, the illegitimate son, always kind of lurking in the background. He embodies this nihilistic despair, this feeling that life is meaningless. And he becomes this really fascinating, kind of unsettling contrast to the other brothers. He shows us what their struggles might lead to, if they're not careful.
Yeah. The book opens with all the brothers getting back together at the monastery.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, they're going to talk about Dmitri's inheritance. How nice. But surprise, It all blows up, right? All these resentments and these deep psychological wounds just come pouring out.
Dostoevsky's really clever with this first part. He's setting the stage for the tragedy, introducing us to all the players, showing us their motivations. He's basically giving us all the pieces of this complex puzzle and saying, okay, try and put it together.
And one thing that really stands out in this first part is the way he explores faith and doubt. You've got Alyosha looking to Father Zosima for guidance. He represents this unwavering belief.
Yeah.
And then there's Ivan with all his skepticism, challenging everything. Is there even a God? Is there even such a thing as morality?
Ivan's struggle, that's really something. He's got this idea that if there's no God, then everything is allowed, which is, a scary thought, and it's a thought that really impacts how all the characters act throughout the book.
And then there's this whole other conflict brewing. Dmitri and his father both fall for Grushenka, and she is captivating, but she can be manipulative too. It's a love triangle that just pushes all the tensions over the edge. Dmitri gets even more impulsive, and things just keep escalating between him and his father.
Oh, Dostoevsky just gets human psychology. He really gets into these complicated desires, the jealousy, how destructive it can be when love isn't returned. And he puts it all against the backdrop of Russia at the time, all this social and political upheaval.
Yeah, by the end of part one, you just feel this sense of dread, like something terrible is about to happen. We just don't know what it is yet.
Exactly. And that's what makes Dostoevsky so great. He keeps you on the edge of your seat, pulls you into the drama. He makes you think about your own beliefs, what's good and what's evil. He doesn't give you easy answers. He just gives you this profound look into what it means to be human.
So we're moving into part two of the Brothers Karamazov, and things get really intense. Dostoevsky takes us right into the conflict, shows us what happens when these characters make the choices they do.
Part two is where all these ideas Dostoevsky's been setting up about God, morality, all that, they really start to come together. We see how Ivan's ideas about a world without God, how they start to affect the people around him, especially Smerdyakovh.
Yeah, it's like Ivan saying all these nihilistic things basically gives Smerdyakovh permission to just act on all his dark impulses. He already hates Fyodor Pavlovich, thinks the world's meaningless anyway, so hearing Ivan talk just makes him more dangerous.
And then we get to the Grand Inquisitor. This is a huge chapter. Ivan tells this story to Alyosha, and it's kind of a turning point in the whole book, a story within a story. And it just brings up all these deep questions about faith, free will, good and evil.
Oh, the Grand Inquisitor. I'm telling you, that's one of the most thought-provoking parts of the whole book. So haunting. Ivan's story about Christ coming back to earth during the Inquisition, getting thrown in prison by the church. It's just so powerful. It makes you question everything, Authority, faith, what people really want.
Right. The Grand Inquisitor, his whole argument is that Christ was wrong to give people freedom. He says what people really want is security, comfort, not the burden of making choices. He actually says people are willing to give up truth and freedom just to be happy and have things in order.
Scary, isn't it? And what makes it even more unsettling is that Christ doesn't say anything. The whole time the Inquisitor is talking, Christ is silent. I feel like Dostoevsky is saying, okay, you figure it out. What do you think about all this?
It's so interesting how this big philosophical debate is happening while Dmitri is just falling apart. He's obsessed with Grushenka. He's broke. He's furious at his father. It's all just pushing him to the edge.
Yeah, Dmitri's just totally consumed by all this passion. He threatens his father, does all kinds of reckless stuff. He's just spinning out of control. And you can see it's going to lead to something bad.
And on top of that, you've got Alyosha dealing with his own crisis of faith. His mentor, Father Zosima, dies, and it just shakes him. And then there's this scandal, people saying Zosima's body is decomposing too fast. And Alyosha starts to doubt. Could everything he believed in, everything that gave him comfort, could it all be a lie?
It's a really rough time for Alyosha. He has to face the possibility that his faith isn't what he thought it was. And that doubt, that uncertainty, it sends him on his own journey.
Dostoevsky is brilliant at weaving all these storylines together, the philosophical stuff, the emotional journeys, it's all connected. He's showing us how ideas really do have consequences, how those big concepts of good and evil actually play out in the real world where things are messy and unpredictable.
And then it happens. Fyodor Pavlovich is murdered, and the book just takes this dark turn. It goes from this philosophical exploration to a murder mystery.
That murder, it changes everything. It forces the characters to face their own guilt, Think about the things they've done and what the consequences really are.
And yeah, everyone thinks Dmitri did it right away. But then the question of who really killed Fyodor Pavlovich and why, it becomes so much more complicated.
You can tell Dostoevsky isn't just trying to solve a murder. He's using it to look at bigger issues like morality, justice, even what truth actually is.
Okay, so we're in the final part of the Brothers Karamazov, and the focus really shifts. Now it's all about what happens after Fyodor Pavlovich's murder. We've got the trial, Dmitri on the stand, but it goes deeper than that. It's like we're really seeing the impact of this crime, especially for Ivan.
You're right. Ivan's descent into madness is just captivating. The guilt just eats him up, and he can't escape this idea that his words about God, about morality, maybe they pushed Smerdyakov to do it.
It just destroys him, doesn't it? He goes to Smerdyakov looking for answers, some way to understand it all. And that's when Smerdyakov actually confesses. He says he was inspired by Ivan, those pronouncements that everything is permitted if God's not there.
It completely breaks Ivan. He starts seeing things, having conversations with the devil. It's like his mind's falling apart. All this self-doubt, this madness, it just takes over.
The scenes with the devil, oh man, they're so vivid, so disturbing. It's like we're right there with Ivan, feeling that torment, watching him unravel.
And then Smerdyakov kills himself, so the truth, whatever it is, it dies with him. Ivan's stuck. He tries to confess, wants to clear Dmitri during the trial, but everyone thinks he's lost it, just rambling like a madman.
And that trial, it's like it shows us everything the book's been talking about.
Yeah.
The limits of justice, how powerful perception and prejudice can be,
Yeah.
how hard it is to find the truth.
Yeah, and Dmitri, for all his flaws, he almost becomes a sympathetic character, all this evidence against him, but it's mostly circumstantial, right? Because of his temper, his relationship with his father.
He's not just a monster, though, is he? You can see he feels remorse. He wants redemption. He's complicated, like all of us, trying to fight his own demons.
And even though Ivan tries to tell the truth, it doesn't matter. Dmitri's convicted, sentenced to Siberia. It's a tragedy, right? It shows how flawed the justice system can be, how random and unfair things can be.
But Dostoevsky doesn't leave us completely in the dark. In the epilogue, there's this glimmer of hope. Alyosha, he's still on his path of faith and service, and he goes to Ilyusha's funeral. The little boy whose father Dmitri hurt. It's such a sad scene, so much grief, but there's this sense of something new beginning too.
And Alyosha, he speaks to the schoolboys, Ilyusha's friends. He tells them to love, to be compassionate, to remember Ilyusha with kindness, and keep his memory alive.
It's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Like, even with all the tragedy, all the despair, there's still hope. Hope for redemption, forgiveness, a better future.
The Brothers Karamazov, it's just this incredible book. Huge, epic. It gets into everything about what it means to be human. It's a tough read, but it's worth it. It makes you think about faith, doubt, morality. It stays with you.
Absolutely. If you're interested in any of this, want to explore these ideas more, go grab yourself a copy of The Brothers Karamazov. There's a link down in the description. And, subscribe to Books and Bytes. We do these deep dives into all sorts of amazing books.